Hello, friends. Welcome, everyone. My name's Tami Simon. I'm the founder of Sounds True, and it is a great joy and honor to be with you here hosting this session with beloved meditation teacher Tara Brach on living from love, 4 key principles. Joining you here for this, what I notice is an excitement in me to join with the thousands of people who have opted in to participate in this live session. And I'm inspired here at the beginning for us to join together and link with each other right here in the field of the heart, the intersubjective field that we're sharing right here in this moment, and choosing to inhabit that energy of our hearts. So if you'll come with me here and we can just breathe in and out from this heart field together as we begin, choosing to animate and connect this heart energy together. Just a few big, beautiful breaths. Opening to the feelings, the intensity of our feelings, what Tara references as our greatness of heart, which is what we'll be exploring together. One more big breath together, really relishing the inhale and exhale. I'm so happy to be joining you in this heart space together and want to offer a special welcome to those of you who are here joining us as we begin a year-long program with Tara Brach. It's a year that's devoted to exploring and increasing our courageous love. That's what we'll be exploring with Tara Brach and a group of her friends and meditation instructors who will also be coming online, offering weekly meditation sessions. Tara will be sending out a weekly email of a practice reflection that we can each do as a courageous love community. And then Tara will be coming online for a series every other month of a special question and answer session, as well as leading some of the weekly meditations. And if you're interested, there's still time to join us for 2025, a year of courageous love. I think something that many of us are tuning into, that we need to bring our true heart's aspiration to our life, to each other and our world. You can still join 2025, a year of courageous loving with Tara Brach and friends. We'll be putting the link in the chat for those of you who are joining us here in the Zoom room. And then you can also click the Learn More button on the player page if you're interested in learning more. And I heartily welcome you to join us. And now, here we go, our special session, 4 key principles for living from love. Tara Brach.
Well, thank you, Tami, for bringing us all here. It really helps to breathe always. And thanks to each of you for just being here right now. I wanted to share that in these last months, I've had so many conversations that begin with how troubled our world is. It just starts that way. And people talking about, pulling away from reading the news and kind of waiting, tensing against the disasters that are unfolding globally. We know it. But then it drops deeper and it goes to, where is the hope? And we seem to always arrive at this place that the yearning is for a more loving world. And we know this. I mean, we know that the hope is in waking up consciousness and waking up love. So it's this yearning that motivated me to gather today to begin this year-long program, teaming with Tami and some beloved fellow teachers that'll be holding it, and just to explore, what does it mean to live from love today in these relationships, in our work, in relating to our living world, and what does it mean to really dedicate to that? And there's so much power to doing this in community. And I want to say that you are my conscious community in this. You really are. So today we'll reflect and talk together 4 key practices that have been most powerful and central in really my inner work and working with others. And it'll give you a taste of what we'll be diving into way more deeply through the year. And we'll have time for some questions. Um, Maybe to start, that there is a story I've always loved, and it's about this good king and queen. It takes place long, 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 long time ago, and they're seeking heirs to their kingdom. And so they're aging, they don't have children, and they want to ensure that their people in their land are in wise and compassionate and just hands. So, because they're open minded sorts, they decide they'll invite anyone who's interested to apply for the job and be interviewed. You know, they're kind of um, equal opportunity employers. And they felt it would be most egalitarian if everyone comes at once, and they make available the vast wardrobes of the palace so everyone can appear their best, you know, even the playing field, right? Also, because some might be hungry, they provide a banquet of fresh, organic, luscious foods and ever thoughtful some recreation while people wait. Okay, so the great day arrives, and there's this huge stream of people that come through the gates. They're excited by the possibility of bringing their hearts to serving their kingdom. And the king and the queen and their minister wait patiently for them to come. They're supposed to come one by one to the royal chambers as they're ready. And so first the people are enjoying the bathhouses, then they spend hours dressing and adorning themselves and arguing about who gets what and flirting with each other and admiring and critiquing. They're heaping piles of food, and it's accompanied by much wine and entertainment and puzzles and games. So the air is raucous, and it's just filled with competition and fun and fighting and play. Meanwhile, the king, the queen, and their minister are waiting hour after hour. And gradually a quiet descends, and the minister goes down to the hall to see what's happening. And when she returns, she reports sadly that everyone had left, taking with them the remainder of the food and the clothes they had tried on and the silverware and the jewels. They were full and tired and forgot why they came. So this brings us to the first principle and practice in terms of really dedicating to living from love, which is we have to have a way to remember what matters. And we get caught in trance. We forget what brings us here, what really matters. What if we're at the end of our life looking back would really make a difference. I think so often of all the palliative caregivers who have reported this when they've spent a lot of time with the dying, they find the greatest regret is people feeling they hadn't lived true to themselves, you know, true to their hearts. And it's not just the dying. Many of us have that undercurrent of disappointment that we're not really living aligned with what our heart cares about. There's a daily experience you might relate to where some deep place in us knows we value being present and kind and forgiving and creative. And we also witness, how many moments of our day, these huge swaths of being on autopilot, where we're lost in the incessant inner dialogue and we're stressed and planning, we're worried, checking things off the list, but not really listening to others or tending to others or to our inner life. And maybe more, we're actually more irritated or blaming, writing the texts or emails that we then regret, saying things we regret, creating a distance. Another story, a little girl asks her mom, how did the human race appear? And the mother says, well, God made Adam and Eve, they had children, so all mankind was made. So 2 days later, she asked the same question to her father, and he says, many years ago, there are monkeys from which the human race evolved. So she's confused. She goes back to her mom and says, well, how is it possible you told me the human race was created by God? And dad said that they developed from monkeys. And the mom said, well, dear, it's very simple. I told you about my side of the family, and he told you about his. It's just so natural that we go into trance and we give each other a hard time and we give ourselves a hard time. And we have the capacity to see this and re-choose love. This is Rumi. Rumi writes, gamble everything for love. Half-heartedness doesn't reach into majesty. You set out to find God, but then you keep stopping for long periods at mean-spirited roadhouses. I really like that. Gamble everything for love. And the word gamble, it feels risky. This is why it takes courage, because loving means feeling, and feeling means feeling the whole array, not just the emotions that are easier for us. So the deal is not to get waylaid days, weeks, and we know it, decades. So we need a regular way of remembering to re-choose over and over. And all spiritual paths have some rituals or processes of remembering. In Buddhism, in the Bodhisattva path, which is the path of awakening beings, it's a daily practice. I mean, every day, often the beginning and the end of a formal meditation, there's that reflecting what really matters. So I'll share one of my practices, and it really comes from a mix of ways of paying attention. But first, I often will start with remembering a verse from the poet Hafez, who says, "Ask the friend for love, ask again, for I have found that every heart will get what it prays for most." And I think that's so powerful, that what we most pray for or want or long for wakes up through us. So a brief practice to explore this. Wherever you are, just take a moment to let the attention go inward. And it might mean that you make subtle adjustments in how you're sitting. It might mean that you begin by feeling the movement of this life breath, the inflow and the outflow. But invite yourself right here. And just notice what happens when you intentionally come right here into presence. Notice the experience that's here. Notice what happens if you intentionally extend the breath. So it's a really full, deepen breath. And then a very slow out breath. Letting go, letting go. A nice, full, deep in breath. And then again, that slow out breath. So you can actually feel the sensations of the breath as you release it. One more time. Breathing in, filling the chest and the lungs. And then a slow, even release. Sense of letting go, relaxing. So that as the breath resumes in its natural rhythm, you can again notice the quality of presence that's here. You might even say the word here. Just feel that quality of here-ness. And you might let there be a slight smile at the mouth that sends a message to the whole nervous system to let go of fight, flight, freeze, come into more ease. You can even let the eyes join in, a slight smile at the eyes, as if the outer corners are lifted and the eyes are soft, the brow is smooth. And you might visualize and feel a smile at the heart. Curve of a smile spreading through the heart, not to cover over, but to really make space for what's here. Aware of this breathing body, this tender heart. And then to reflect and imagine today is the last day of this life. And just sensing what's already unfolded today and what might be ahead, who you might be with, what you might be doing. And sensing your heart's aspiration. How do you want to experience this day? How do you want to relate to your inner life? What's the quality of presence and heart you'd like to bring to your inner life, to others, to your moments? What most matters about how you live today? And if you feel open to it or comfortable with it, you might gently put your hand on your heart or your palms together, just to really anchor right here in this living body, in this heart, and mentally whisper what it is you most long for. What's your aspiration? What's your prayer for this moment, for this day? You can even whisper it out loud. I find that so powerful. In some way saying, please, may I, and then what is it? What matters to your heart? For those of you who feel drawn, you might find you want to write down somewhere. Aspirations don't say the same in terms of the exact wording, but the felt sense. If it's a deep aspiration, you'll feel it in your body. There's a sincerity that you'll really sense as true. If your eyes are closed, feel free to open them. And yeah, here we are. Just taking a moment to feel the field of us and how we're each in our own way and yet in some similar way, um, listening more deeply to our hearts and to that shared heart space that's here. Really beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so 4 key principles. And the first, remembering what matters. it really allows us to consciously re-choose love every time we remember. The block to embodying love is that when we're stressed in our relationships, when we're insecure or threatened, or there's a conflict in needs, when something comes up, our hearts get armored. We start protecting from being hurt, from fear. So this leads to the second practice, which is the courage to disarm, to feel vulnerability. And it does take courage. This is where that gamble everything for love. It's like we're taking a chance because there's some rawness that we have to feel. It takes courage means a greatness of heart. It takes courage to feel feelings. And it's the only way to be truly in relationship with our inner life and authentic with others. Okay, so another story. This is from years and years ago. A woman described going for her summer vacation. She goes to New England, at same town as the actor Paul Newman. Okay, so her ritual is to go for a hike and then stop at this ice cream coffee shop to get her favorite double dip chocolate cone. It's early afternoon. The only patron person there is Paul Newman in the store. So her heart skips a beat as she sees his famous baby blue eyes, and he smiles graciously, and she responds demurely. But inside, she's saying, "Okay, hold it together. You're a 42-year-old married woman, a mother of three. What is wrong with you? Get it together. He can tell. Be cool. Don't even look over there. So she goes and gets her cone, change in one hand, cone in the other, and without even glancing in his direction, she tries to glide right out the door. She gets to the car, but there's no cone. So she has to go back in, but there's not a cone on the cone rack or with the clerk. So then she looks over at Paul Newman, and his face breaks out into that familiar grin. He said, "You put it in your purse." When we get insecure, when we get stressed, our survival conditioning flips in and we leave our body. We armor our hearts. We retreat into these circling, anxious thoughts about what's wrong. This is our negativity bias. And we're operating from a contracted, reactive sense of self. We're missing, the depth of our intelligence, our intuition, our care. It takes courage to pause. It's the last thing we want to do. But if we can pause, breathe, come in and say, okay, what's happening inside me? That is the beginning of reconnecting with our being, with our care, with our awakeness. And there's some very now well-known psycho memes that are like, your issues are in your tissues. We can't resolve or heal what we're unwilling to feel. We have to connect with our body. And when we cut off and act from an armored heart, we inevitably create separation from others. There's many years ago, I went to a church service on Christmas Eve, and the minister shared a story. This is a story that's told by a Unitarian minister about traveling on Christmas Day with her husband and two sons, and she stops to get food at an almost empty diner, and her son, Eric, who's 1 year old, attracts the attention of an old man across the room. So she describes him, tattered rag of a coat and bare gums and shoes with holes. And her son and this man begin this back forth. And here's what she writes. She says, "Eric squeals with glee. Hi there." Two words he thought were one. Hi there. He pounded his fat baby hands whack, whack, whack on the metal high chair tray. His face was alive with excitement, eyes wide, gums bared in toothless grin, and he wiggled and chirped and giggled. And the old man kept saying, "Hi there, baby. Hi there, big boy. I see you, Buster." She writes, "My husband and I exchanged a look that was a cross between what do we do and poor devil. I notice Waitresses' eyebrows shoot to their foreheads, and several people sitting near us hummed out loud. This old geezer was creating a nuisance with my beautiful baby. I shoved a cracker at Eric and he pulverized it on the tray. I whispered, "Why me?" under my breath. Our meal came and the nuisance continued. Now the old bum was shouting from across the room, "Do you know patty cake? Attaboy, you know peekaboo? Hey, look, he knows peekaboo." Nobody thought it was cute. The guy was drunk and a disturbance. I was embarrassed, and my husband Dennis was humiliated. Even our 6-year-old said, "Why is this old man talking so loud?" We ate in silence, except Eric, who was running through his repertoire for the admiring applause of a Skid Row bum. Finally, I had enough. I turned his high chair. Eric screamed for his old buddy. Now I was mad. Dennis went to pay the check, imploring me to get Eric and meet me in the parking lot. I trundled Eric out of the high chair and looked towards the exit. The old man sat poised and waiting, his chair directly between me and the door. "Lord, just let me get out of here before he speaks to me or Eric." I headed towards the door. It soon became apparent that both the Lord and Eric had other plans. As I drew closer to the man, I turned my back, walking to sidestep him. As I did so, Eric, all the while with his eyes riveted to his best friend, leaned far over my arms, reaching with both arms in a baby pick-me-up position. In a split second of balancing my baby and turning to counter his weight, I came eye to eye with the old man. Eric was lunging for him, arms spread wide. The bum's eyes both asked and implored, "Would you let me hold your baby?" There was no need for me to answer, since Eric propelled himself from my arms to the man's. Suddenly, a very old man and a very young baby were involved in a love relationship. Eric laid his tiny head upon the man's ragged shoulder. The man's eyes closed, and I saw tears hover beneath his lashes. His aged hands, so full of grime and pain and hard labor, gently, so gently, cradled my baby's bottom and stroked his back. I stood awestruck. The old man rocked and cradled Eric in his arms for a moment and then looked at me. He said, "You take care of this baby." Somehow I managed, "I will," from a throat that contained a stone. He pried Eric from his chest, unwillingly, longingly. I held my arms open to receive my baby, and again the gentleman addressed me. "God bless you, ma'am. You've given me my Christmas gift." I said nothing for more than a muttered thanks. With Eric back in my arms, I ran for the car. Dennis wondered why I was crying and holding Eric so tightly, and why I was saying, my God, forgive me." I remember looking around after hearing that story at other people in the church and seeing people in tears, which felt good. Knowing, all of us knowing how often it is that our hearts are armed in a way that we don't see others, in judgment, in bias, also towards those we know most well. We can hold resentments that harden our hearts, and we forget who's there for long stretches. So in our relationships, it's inevitable that our hearts get armed and tight with judgments and anger. And if we want to dedicate to choosing love, we have to pause regularly and gamble everything, have the courage to disarm, to feel those hurts, to feel the fears, and to do it with a real gentleness and kindness. And here's the thing: if we can open to our own vulnerability with kindness, if we have that courage, the same inner capacities allow us to open to each other with attunement, with compassion. And this is the grounds of living with compassion. And it's a life practice. It's a life practice. So let's explore together. We're just doing a taste It's deep and dimensional, but I want you to, just so we're all together in kind of having that courage to feel, take a moment. And again, either close your eyes or lower your gaze. Let the attention turn inward. Make any of the adjustments to sitting. This is very short. Just be comfortable, be awake. Take a few full breaths. And then bring to mind a relationship that matters to you, where there's some distance, some conflict, where you know there's some armoring. So this is a relationship where there's some judgment going on, resentment, blame, perhaps anger, but nothing traumatic. And as you arrive at a relationship where you feel that tension, where you feel some judgment, blame, remind yourself of what caused it so you can actually feel it. Just you can feel the energy of that. What's causing you to distance. And now here's the inquiry. You might ask yourself, what would I have to feel that may be difficult in my body and my heart if I let go of blame? If I let go of the idea that there's right or wrong here, good or bad. If I let go of blame, what would be under it that might not be so easy to feel? And just honestly listen in and feel into your body, actually inviting what's there, breathing with it. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's confusion, maybe it's self-blame, maybe there's a feeling of powerlessness, hurt, whatever's there. And if I a lot of times will put my hand on my heart as a way of being a little more intimate with what I'm feeling. Offer kindness. Just notice what happens if you just offer kindness, a kind presence. Nothing more, just that simplicity of feeling what's here and offering presence. And you might sense what it would be like if you remembered to pause and just to come home into this more embodied sense of where you're tender, where it's vulnerable. And feel the realness, because there's a real power that comes when we get real. Opening your eyes as you're ready, if they're closed. Okay, friends, so we've talked about the first principle, which is remembering what matters. And the second one is coming back home to whatever we're feeling, the courage to disarm and feel our vulnerability. The third principle is to see the goodness in others. You know, if we're in touch with our own vulnerability, it's much more natural and quick, actually, to feel our shared humanness with others. You know, it's like we all feel at times afraid or uncertain or separate or hurting. And we start realizing it's not my pain, it's the pain or our pain. Most deeply, what we start realizing when we open to vulnerability is just the most intrinsic level of goodness, that we start seeing more clearly behind the mask that everyone we meet in some way yearns to love and be loved. We want to belong. That when others are not caught in fear, you can sense how much they love love and love truth. and love beauty and love presence. That this loving, this presence is what we most deeply are. Thomas Merton says, life is this simple. We're living in a world that is absolutely transparent and the divine is shining through it all the time. This is not just a nice story or fable. It is true. I love that. Life becomes interesting, profound, and poignant when we move through with that sense of namaste. Can we see that sacredness? And given our conditioning, because of the negativity bias, we look for what's wrong. So this is a practice. It's a practice to look and see, not just in other human animals, in all creation, the inherent preciousness. So that's the third principle in practice. And the fourth is from that seeing of the greater truth of others and ourselves, respond with love. The fourth practice is active. It's to engage, to love without holding back. And one of the most beautiful ways of expressing love is to be a mirror of goodness, to let others know what we see. It's such a gift because we all get insecure and we all go into trance and we all forget really the dimension and beauty and goodness of what we are. There's a term I recently came onto that is so wonderful that I want to share with you. This was coined by peace activist and negotiator John Paul Lederich, and the word is glistening. And what it means, glistening means to be present with others in ways that help them shine into their deepest color, purpose, and wisdom. Glistening. What have we really committed to glistening each day with someone? Like to I'm just thinking right now of Arne Garbar, who puts it this way. He says, to love someone is to learn the song in their heart and sing it back to them when they've forgotten. I think if we didn't commit to anything else but glistening each day, and we have to do it with ourselves too. What a world, right? Okay, so our final practice. Like to, again, invite you, and it's a great habit to get into to say, okay, this is a pause. Take a pause and just let the attention turn inward. Remembering Hafiz asked the friend for love. In some way, sense your sincerity about waking up your heart in whatever words you'd like to. Bring to mind someone you care about with whom you'd like to deepen connection. And keeping them in your mind, take a few more moments to arrive so that you feel you're aware of your body, you feel the sensations of your body. You might find it helps to bring that slight smile to the mouth, to breathe in a conscious, full way. Let the hands be soft, the chest open, the belly soft. You might imagine and sense that smile spreading through your heart. And bringing that person close in now, in your mind's eye. Sense what you most appreciate. Sense their goodness. You might imagine their eyes looking at you and how they look at you when they're happy, when they're loving, when they're really alive. Sense their goodness, the intelligence, the humor, the spirit, the fun, the wonder that shines through them. And imagine telling them. Imagine telling them and even saying their name and saying thank you. You might imagine them taking it in. And what happens? Those invisible threads of connection really lighting up in a deeper way. And you might bring one more person to mind. And again, just sense their goodness. Sense how sacredness and presence, aliveness, sentience lives through them, their warmth, their heart. When they're free of fear, how it expresses. Let them know. Let them know their goodness. See them taking it in and feeling the connection. And now, friends, sense your own heart space. You know, when we mirror goodness, we can feel our own intrinsic loving and goodness, that warmth, that openness, that tenderness. That's really our essence that we can draw on again and again. It's timeless. It's here for us. And the more this matters, the more we ask to feel and embody love, the more that's what happens. This is what we can trust. So as you're ready, take a few full breaths. Opening your eyes, coming back. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Tami, I think I'm ready to explore whatever questions are here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tara. We received a couple of questions of people saying that their interest in courageous love right now comes from anger that they feel about the state of our current political system, uh, the upcoming inauguration, and their sense of how do they work with this anger in a spirit of courageous love? And I wonder if you can speak directly to that and maybe weave in even the four principles that you've articulated here.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that question because it's pervasive that it feels like we're being blocked from love because we're angry and um, armored. And actually, the first step for me is to honor that anger. Every emotion that comes up is intelligent, and it can be a portal, really, to the fullness of courageous love. And if you're angry, it's because there's something you really care about. If you're angry, there's something that really matters to you. So the first step is to honor the anger, feel it, feel it fully, and then begin to ask the question, what's under the anger? What is it that's really mattering to me? If I do that for myself right now, you know, I even engage in the process because something in me longs to be fully awake, have a fully awake heart. So I start exploring whatever arises when it's anger, just to begin to feel the vulnerability under it. I'm angry because I'm afraid for those who are most vulnerable of ever increasing suffering. So it comes out of wanting to protect people. And I suspect others have something similar, that the anger is because we care about people and we care about suffering. And so if I open to that caring and really open to it, I get in touch with the fear that's mixed into it, that things are going to get worse. And in the deepest way, this real longing to be part of the healing and to have a more loving world. And so if I act from my anger, and if I speak from my anger, and I haven't gone under to the vulnerability, it actually creates more of the very thing that is causing suffering, more dividedness. But if I can go to the vulnerability, which is, caring, deep caring, then when I express, it's going to come in a way that can be part of the healing. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you could see the four principles there, and that really get that, not to bypass anger, not to try to be on some spiritual path that doesn't include it, but to actually let it be a doorway back into loving.
And in terms of this approach, being courageous in our love and not bypassing anything, I have a question about the inner smile. And I know that is a practice that's taught in Qigong and different Taoist traditions. And to be honest with you, Tara, I've always felt a little confused by it. And I thought, well, that's because you're attached, Tami, to your suffering and, the truth of suffering. You're going to stay with it. You're not going to change it with a smile because it really works. If you experiment with this smile, there's an immediate chemical change. And yet I notice I'm reluctant often. Like, no, I'm not going to be one of those like smiley pasted on things. So how do we inhabit an inner smile without any bypassing?
Yeah, good question. Most practices can either have a shadow side or be helpful. So the deep inquiry is this serving awakening? And there are times that if we go the smile route, we really are bypassing something difficult. We're trying to create a biochemistry of benevolence, when what we really need to do is inhabit the feeling of fierceness or anger or disappointment or grief. And so it is a plastering over and it's not useful. There are other times that our nervous system is habituated. It's just habituated to the biochemistry of a grimace and a frown. And we're actually exposing ourselves to another possibility. We're developing neural pathways to a whole other state that we're not familiar with, but actually is part of our capacity. So, how to tell the difference? Ask your heart, is this serving awakening right now? Or how might this serve awakening? And your body will guide you.
Thank you.
Smile
Jill wrote
on.
in, I think I'm gonna just lean into the smile for a while, since I've done the other for very many years. All right. Jill writes in, when I pause, I can't often discern what the issue is. How do I tease apart the feelings?
Yeah, thank you, Jill. Sometimes it feels like a swamp. So we start by just going, okay, it feels like a swamp. And what I do is I start including everything, whatever tendril of feelings I'm aware of. I might sense, well, there's some sense of fear in here, but there's also excitement, but I'm also really sad. Name whatever currents you're aware of, and just let it all be there in a mush, but just keep naming whatever feels predominant at all. And then at some point you can say, what most wants attention? And that's a really powerful question. Just asking your body and heart, what most wants attention? Typically, one or two more distinctive emotions will arise. But if they don't, not a problem. Our only job is to pay attention, and to pay attention with interest. As if I'm interested, then generally what most wants attention will reveal itself. So I hope that gives you a few little tips on tuning in.
And Tara, we received several questions about glistening. People wanted to hear the definition again, and also maybe you could give us some examples of how we act with love by acting with glistening.
I love it. Okay, so glistening means to be present with others in ways that help them shine into their deepest color, purpose, and wisdom. The most tried and true form of glistening is when you listen, see who someone is, and in some way remind them of what they're forgetting about themselves. Remind them of how loving they are. Remind them of their honesty. Remind them of how creative they are. Because in the moment that we remind them, it actually draws that out. It helps them. At other times, glistening might be listening into what do they need. So I'll be with somebody, and sometimes I can just tell what they need is not to hear from me, but really for me to be quiet and keep them company. So that's the way we be with them. At other times, what somebody most needs is a gentle touch. Um, so I'd say the two main ways that we can be present with each other and bring out the best is to remind each other of their goodness or to listen in to the vulnerability and sense what the vulnerable part in another person most needs from you in that moment. Sometimes it's just a sense of being safe. Sometimes it's a sense of being incredibly deeply accepted. Sometimes it's just understanding that you get where they are. So I hope that gives you a sense of the flavors. But I think it's a wonderful model or way to remember that each person we're with, there's an opportunity to deepen the connection with the quality of our presence.
And then we had somebody write in, and I think this is probably something many of us can relate to. I know I can, that in our glistening field, our love field, we're including these different people from our past, this ruptured relationship, but then there's someone who's just outside the circle in some way. And I'll be neutral towards them, but I can't quite embrace them wholly because of this hurt in my loving, glistening field. What would you say to someone who's in that place? I'm neutral to them, but I can't quite go so far as wishing them well and seeing their
Yeah.
beauty expand.
It might even be more aversive than neutral. For most of us, there are some people that we just have a, rise of aversion when they come to mind. And it's not about um, pretending that we can include them. Some people we just can't include yet, and that's fine. The way to keep moving towards disarming is to open to what is within ourselves that feels aversive. So if somebody is hard to open to because you see how much suffering they're causing to other people, and it brings up a sense of deep judgment and aversion, then to open to the pain inside you about what they're doing. Just open inside to, where you're feeling aversion and say yes to it. You're not saying, yes, that person's a bad person. You're saying, yes, this is deep aversion and it belongs as much as any other feeling belongs. The idea of including everybody in our hearts is unfair. It's a process. And if we don't include everybody, then we say yes to the part of us that can't, and we listen deeply and we offer kindness, because the more we're compassionate towards our aversion, the more the identification with the aversion starts quieting and we actually have more space. I mean, that it's a roundabout, but it's how it works. The other thing I want to say is that there's a timing in this, and that there's an amazing phrase that I use a lot from Roshi Joan Halifax, which is that we have to have a strong back and a soft front. And what that means is that to have that soft front that's all inclusive, we have to have the strength to take care of ourselves and to take care of others, and that clarity that can see where there's threat. And sometimes we have to just cultivate the strong back and keep a distance from somebody, even with our heart armored, and that's okay. The bottom line thing is to remember that we're asking for love, and that if we care about love, we will start tuning into the process that is actually intelligent and organic, and not try to force ourselves into some false idea of what it means to love. It has to come naturally. When we can't, bring compassion to the place that's hurting or stuck or afraid.
Tara, this is our first session here. Tara Brach, Sounds True 2025, a year of courageous loving. And I wonder if you can share with everyone your inspiration for courageous love to be this theme that you wanted to address in community in 2025.
Yeah, and there's a reason for the word courageous. It's kind of the way I started, Tami, which is so many of us are aware of, I would say, a regression in consciousness on the planet, where the swing rightward, the violence, the dividedness, the earth itself erupting in so much dis-ease. I have friends that have lost homes. I'm sure many of you are, you know, impacted directly in some way by the horrificness of the fires here and then around the globe. It's so natural for us to get armored and tense and defended and kind of waiting for the next bad thing to happen. It takes that gambling everything for love. It takes a real conscious dedication. And it's what I most want in my own life, is to deepen my dedication and have the courage to lean in, to feel feelings when I don't want to feel them, to pause when I want to just steam ahead and just do what I want to do, for the sake of the kind of tenderness and open-heartedness that I know that this is what the world needs. And it feels like the world needs more and more of us to dedicate in this way, to dedicate to choosing and re-choosing love, not abstractly. And the reason I wanted to do this program is because we talk about love abstractly all the time. But really, what does it mean today with the next person that you're engaged with, or with yourself when you walk away from this webinar, and how you are in relationship with yourself? What does it mean to deepen presence and have that kind of tenderheartedness and curiosity, so that we're actually here in our wholeheartedness? And it takes dedication. So it got a little long-winded. I want to do it with others. It's not meant to be done alone. We belong with each other. And I think that the deepest awakenings happen when we join hands. So that was what I was hoping for this year.
And I notice here together, when I think about the year and I think about the accelerated state of change that we're in, and this sense of strong winds erupting potentially all of the time, just like we sit here right now during these broadcasts with the Santa Ana winds in Los Angeles, that there's so much we don't know of the winds of change that are in our midst, that being together in our courageous loving all year, and having you, Tara, as a trusted guide for us is extraordinarily powerful and meaningful. And I'm grateful to you for stepping into that role and holding that heart space for our community to gather together and reinforce our loving courage together. I'm grateful to you. And thank you for bringing with you into the year-long program some trusted meditation teachers who will also be guiding us throughout the year. If you want to join, we'll put the link in the chat. And also, you can click the Learn More button. There's still time to be part of our 2025 Year of Courageous Loving program. Tara, can we end with a brief presencing together of our courageous hearts?
Yeah. Again, I'm so grateful you're here. You, Tammy, and all of those who've come to team up, to gather, to do it together feels so nourishing. So, as a way maybe of closing, just to, again, as we've been doing, let this be a pause. And it's a sacred pause. So you can really arrive again. It's such an idea that, okay, we're ending. Arrive right here. Take a breath and then take another. Yeah. And you might just close by putting your hand on your heart. In whatever way your prayer goes, Hafiz says, ask the friend for love. Just sense, please, may there be love in your own language. May love wake up through this body, heart, and mind. May I live from love. Our world so deeply needs us to be messengers of love, of wonder, peace, kindness. Please, may there be love. And just sense in this moment that you can offer that warmth and kindness inward. Bathe your being. Why not? Why hold back? Why not now? And then take a moment to imagine and sense all those who have gathered. There's a lot of us. Sense this is a heart space, a field that's more the truth of who we are than any idea of separateness. A warmth, an openness, a field that's quite powerful, that really can spread out across the whole world so that we can feel our shared prayer, that all beings might awaken to feel loving presence, filling them, surrounding them, to feel their belonging, that all beings everywhere might touch a great natural peace, that there may be a growing love and justice and healing through our world, that all beings might awaken and be free. Again, friends, thank you. It's really, really good to be with you. Sending love and blessings to all.
Thank you, Tara. Thanks everyone for being with us.